Hey, it's time we talk to Zeshaan Younus about his film, The Buildout. Hey, Zeshaan. Thanks for joining me, man.
Happy
How's
to
it
be
going?
here.
Good.
Doing great, man.
Tell me about this movie, The Buildout. You worked with on this film when you brought it to my attention. You worked with a friend of mine, Trevor Dillon, who's a
Yeah, he's
producer on the film. Trevor, I've known Trevor for years from the Frida Cinema.
yeah, the Frida Cinema is incredible. I met Trevor at the Frida many years ago, and we built a really meaningful friendship. And I think through his natural love of film and my natural love of trying to get stuff done, we were a really good pair. And he was a producer on the Build Out, and he's a producer on my second feature, which is right now in post production. So we've built a really good and meaningful friendship and creative partnership. So I'm glad to hear that you also like him, but sometimes he's like my mortal enemy. So, we have a good balance.
Well, I work with them because we do award this at the Frida. So, and he's always gone way out of his way for us. I'm sure he did a lot for your film. Now, I have to congratulate you also. You did a successful crowdfund on this. Before we talk about the movie itself, can you tell me, for the benefit of other filmmakers and people are interested, um, how did you go about that crowdfund, and what advice would you give to other filmmakers?
Totally. So I'm happy to say now we have done two successful crowdfund campaigns. So we did one for the build out, we did one for my second feature. It's called I've Seen All I Need to See. And we're about to launch on February 17th a third crowdfund campaign for post production. I would say the primary thing is to be really meticulous about the narrative, the assets, and really just be super earnest about your project. There's a lot of self-deprecation in the creative field, and I think it's really easy for people to be like, "Man, I'm embarrassed to have to ask for money. It's frustrating that I can't do this the way that I see other filmmakers do it, or I can't get private financing, or I can't get a studio involved." But I think community building and developing a really true DIY perspective is really awesome and exciting. And now we have, collectively between two campaigns, 700 people that I know are interested in what we're working on. And when I email them, they're excited for updates. And when we have screenings and we have special events, they show up. And you just don't get that if you're not doing the boots on the ground work. On the negative side, I will say what's made us really successful is that I'm kind of a micromanager when it comes to creative
Oh,
work. So I'm like,
I bond with that. I bond with that.
totally. So I'm like, hey man, change the kerning on this font, or change the color on this, or decrease this. That's like I'm really meticulous about that stuff, but I do feel like it always pays off in the end in the product.
Well, it's important because I do see a lot of indie film stuff that comes my way, and you can tell when people have an attention to detail and others do not. But you raised over 75 grand on your campaign. I raised about 85. And I did the one crowd fund, but I've had successful ones and I've had ones that failed. So kudos to you for that. And did that provide all the money you needed?
No, for the build out, we probably had about an extra $40,000 or $50,000 that we had to find privately to get us across the finish line for post. Because we had such a strong push in the beginning, it felt more natural to go out to folks to get that last remaining amount. For the second feature on I've Seen All I Need to See, we did around 25,000 on crowdfunding because we were able to secure a lot more private financing this time around. So each approach has its pros and cons, right? If you have a really large campaign, as you know, I'm sure it's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of logistics. And if you have any type of physical stuff that you're sending out, that ends up taking time and energy. And there's just so much more ongoing engagement for a larger campaign than it would be if you have a smaller kind of, you know, short kind of dash to the checkered flag. So it's been interesting doing it both ways.
Yeah, I just I think the thing, you learn a lot from a failed campaign. as much from a successful one. And I'll say to filmmakers that are out there, if you go to filmthreat.com/contact, and that you can message me directly, ask me for my crowdfunding advice document. I'll send you a PDF. It gives you all the advice you need. It wasn't written by me. It was written by a friend of mine who raised over 300 grand on a crowdfund. I have not raised that much, but kudos to them. Hey, we should look at the trailer for your movie.
Let's do it.
Let's do it right now. Okay, here we go. Please don't copyright claim. We'll just watch it.
I know I've been distant. The last 2 years, they've just been really fucking hard. You were a good friend to my sister. And if you need this place, these people, to finally be happy, then I want to be there for you. Just make sure I get home in one piece, okay?
I hope that you'll come to understand. These people just... they took me in. They accepted me. I just hope that you get to witness even a fragment of what I have. It's gonna change you. Like it changed me.
What is happening?
I don't know.
I shouldn't have come out here with you. I knew I shouldn't have.
Wow. That's great performances by your two leads. That is amazing. So tell me more about the film and what your plans are for it.
Totally. And you made such a good point. I mean, Jenna and Hannah, our two leads, are incredible. I mean, there's been one consensus from everybody that's watched the film at film festivals or privately or whatever it may be, and it's that their performances stand out more than anything. Right now, you know, we wrapped production in late 2022, and we've been on the festival circuit for about a year plus, a year and a half. We've been picked up by Ethos Releasing, which is a brand new distribution company that's based off of a production company called Witchcraft, which for us, you know, from the nucleus of our film, these two words, witchcraft and ethos, have been in our narrative for a long time. So when we ended up finding the partnership we did, we just knew that it was the right way to go. And the film's going to be released on VOD on February 25th. But before that, we have two screenings in the Southern California area. We have one on February 19th at the Movie Micro Cinema at Vidiots. That's going to have a Q&A moderated by Bria Grant, which, you know...
I know Bria.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Yeah. She's incredible.
She's awesome. Yeah, that's great. She's a filmmaker herself.
Totally. Yeah. And, you know, we worked with her in the past. She was on another project that I kind of worked on, and we've maintained a connection, and she's just a true champion for indie films. So it's incredible to have her there. And then on the 20th at the Frida Cinema, we have a free screening with a Q&A that's going to be moderated by Sean Gunn, which is super exciting. And we'll have Natasha Halevi, one of our actors, who's going to be joining us for that Q&A the 19th and the 20th. And we'll have other members of the production team that are going to be there. So we're really excited. And this is a film that I think warrants itself being seen on the big screen. It has a really wide scope, and we spent a lot of time on the sound design and the score. And I really think that experiencing it in 5.1 surround sound is much more exciting than a laptop speaker.
I was going to compliment you on the score. It sounded amazing. But I have to ask too, the two things they say that help with production value, cast, and location. And you really seem to hit a home run with that. How'd you find your two leads? And what was, I don't know where the location is, but what went into that thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the location first because, you know, if you're in Southern California or if you're familiar with California, the California desert, it all kind of looks the same, right? So we found a very specific pocket that feels much more otherworldly. And I would say everyone that we've shown the film to is shocked when I tell them that we filmed it here in Southern California, just a few hours away from Los Angeles. But this specific desert is a place that I've spent a lot of time. I've gone on dirt biking trips there myself. I've gone camping there, and it's so special. And it also happens to be a paranormal hotbed of activity, UFO sightings. There were old stories about a desert Bigfoot in that area a few decades ago, a lot of ghost stories. So the soil has a really rich history of weirdness, and we wanted to bring a lot of that into our film. And you're totally right. Production value. I could point the camera in any direction and it's going to be beautiful. It's really hard for me to make a bad frame in that particular environment. So we were really wanting to lean into that. And as it relates to the actors, Hannah was with us since day one. Truly tremendous talent. And I think somebody that was really eager to go the distance. You know, when you're shooting on location, there's a lot of quality of life stuff that goes out the window, right? You're covered in dust all day. You're kind of uncomfortable. It's gritty. It's hot. Sometimes it's freezing cold. And she was like, hell yeah, I'm excited to do all of it, which is really great. And Jenna came along to the production a little bit later. We felt that Jenna was a really perfect counteracting measure to Hannah, right? They have very similar emotional sensibilities, but aesthetically, they couldn't be any more different. And Jenna was really excited about this role because they were able to perform their own motorcycle stunts. And we actually paid for Hannah and Jenna to get their motorcycle licenses in pre-production so that they felt more comfortable around the bikes during production. And I will say very quickly that production was only 7 days long. So
What?
Yeah.
Okay, for a feature, that's low for sure.
Yeah. So it's crazy going to some film festivals and hearing people talk about how they spent 4 or 5 days on their short for a 12-minute short. And I'm like, we did 70 minutes in 7 days in the natural desert with really no lighting and just, relying on the sun to help us out. So it's kind of a miracle the Buildout exists in many ways. So I'm excited to get it out into the world because I think people are going to really feel like it has way more production value than what we were able to actually, scrounge together for.
What about the sound design and score? I mean, that really elevates it quite a bit. And that might have taken more than 7 days, I'm going to assume.
Yeah, so sound design, I mean, our editor, Matt Latham, is incredible. I mean, anybody that has worked with Matt, I think they don't ever really work with anybody else because he has such a specific approach to editing, and he works on a ton of sound design in the edit, which is kind of atypical of editors. So once we got to kind of a final cut of the film, all we needed to do was find a sound designer who was going to help enhance everything that Matt had already established, right? And then we spent about 5 days in Berkeley with Immersive, an incredible sound design studio, and working on the 5.1 design, working on all the cues, making sure that when the motorcycle goes by, you can feel the rumble underneath your seats. And what's interesting about our film in particular is that we shift through 3 different cameras. We have GoPros that are mounted on motorcycle helmets. We have a handheld Sony, basically like vacation cam. And then we had a Sony Venice. So we're sound designing for 3 different perspectives that are intercutting with one another simultaneously. And we didn't want it to feel super jarring where it felt like, oh, now I'm listening through a tin can and now I'm listening through a wide scope. We just kind of maintained a very base and complex audioscape so that it felt like one consistent journey.
Because as you know, when you're cutting the audio for your movie. It's like you're making the movie again in audio form. So how'd you get the good production sound on location?
Once again, just a really great team. And I also will say that I think nature was on our side. The few days before production, there were maybe 80 or 90-mile-per-hour winds that were ripping through that desert. And it was raining and it was foggy. And then, I kid you not, the day we rolled up, it's like the skies parted and everything was really still. So I think the film underworld creatures were on our side trying to get this across the finish line. But production sound on location, it was pretty straightforward. I mean, I wish I had more of a tidbit for you, but we had a great sound guy that we've worked with many other times, and I think he knows exactly what I'm looking for, and he wasn't afraid to tell us, everybody shut up, this is my 10 seconds of silence that I need, that you're going to want in the edit. And it was really valuable to have that person on board.
Oh, always the sound guy. It's like, quiet, got to get the ambient sound, got to get it.
Totally.
And you have to do it. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. So it's out on VOD on the 25th. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's Amazon, Apple, all the main VOD places.
Yeah, we're primarily going to make a push for Amazon. You know, our feature is short. It's around 70 minutes. So we're going to really push pre-orders on rentals and purchasing, and those numbers are going to be pretty low. You know, a few dollars to rent and maybe a few more dollars to buy. There's a lot of indie films that are coming out now that are priced at like $19.99 for a purchase, and we're pretty much doing the exact opposite model of that.
Right.
The thing that I want the most is for people to see the build out as much as they can in any way that they can. So it's less of a cash flow thing for us and more of like, I would love if 1,000 people find this film and can rent it for $2, because I think a lot of people will take a chance on that.
I roll the dice on something because that's $2. What, you know, whatever, you know, I'll check it out. Last question. What is your final takeaway from this project? Because a lot of filmmakers talk, you went out and did it, and not only did it, releasing it. So what thing would you tell, say, a really close friend who's going to try to make a movie? What is your best piece of advice?
Man, you and I are so philosophically aligned on the way we think about stuff, which I really appreciate. The greatest adversary to getting something done is waiting for other things to fall in line, right? It's like nothing's ever going to be perfect. You're never going to have all the resources you need. You're never going to have every single brick laid out in front of you. My number one perspective is that take a big swing. You know, the build out's weird and it's hyper specific and it's super ambitious. And there's a lot in there that I'm really proud of. And there's a lot that I watch where I'm like, man, we could have done that a little bit better. But it doesn't matter. It exists and people are talking about it. I'm in this conversation. You know, hundreds of people have watched it now at film festivals. And more importantly than that, you know, I've really created a really awesome network of people who I want to work with. And I utilized a lot of those folks to make feature number 2. So the build out existing absolutely helped us get our second feature made. And that one, as I mentioned, is called I've Seen All I Need to See. And I think people will start to hear about it in the next few months as we finish post-production. But I would rather have 3 films under my belt that are less than perfect than wait for one to happen and hope that it's going to strike like lightning, because 99.9% of the time it doesn't. So you just got to go through the work and get better and build trust and just keep at it, in my opinion.
And I'm sure as a fellow micromanager, you appreciate, like, it's like, look, it can be perfect, but if you wait around for that, you'll never get anything done. I call it perfliction, like perfect affliction. Like you got to let certain things go. And sometimes happy accidents. I'm looking at your personal website, which is, it's zmyounus.com, and your portfolio here. So good work here. This is amazing. And congratulations on the film, which hopefully if you're watching this, it is out on VOD, the Buildout, and a special screening on What is it again? February
February 19th at Vidiots at the Micro Cinema, and more importantly, February 20th at the Frida Cinema, and those are both free screenings.
Nice. I like free screenings. So, and here you're getting Bloody Disgusting, a stunning mystical odyssey into the unknown. I'm sure there'll be a film threat review soon.
I would love that. You know, the one thing that we've seen is people walk out of this movie and they're either like, I didn't understand it and I hated it, and other people are walking out and they're like, I'm profoundly touched by it, and there's really no middle ground. So for me, that's such a strong endorsement of like, we really did something special. You know, even if somebody walks out and they're like, I really hated that movie, I'm like, great, at least you'll remember me the next time you know, one of my films pops up.
Great. Well, Zeshaan Younus, thank you so much for talking to us. Congratulations again on the film.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for the indie community.
I do my best. Take care.